Okay.
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 Recording in progress.
Welcome to Great Goodness. We are here today with Kathy Haley for a second, and and, and Alice Mergler, and my co-host Karen Stewart.
Hello.
We're having a great time here today with Great Goodness. If you're watching on Facebook Live or if you're watching on YouTube, we really appreciate you being here. We're going to find out a lot of the goodness that Alice brings into the world. The goodness I've experienced is her warmth, and I'm just so excited to hear more about her as a poet and in the arts today and to learn more myself. And at the very end, we will have a prompt that is inspired by Alice. So you want to stay tuned for that. And so we'll go ahead and get started with Karen pulling an oracle card for us.
All right. And Angie, did you tell everybody that you are Angela Driven, or did I miss that? I didn't hear you
I
say it.
don't think I've said that in like
This is
about
Angie.
10 podcasts. I'm just like, I'm
This is
here. I'm here.
this is Angie, and she is the brain, wit, and tech behind Great Goodness.
Oh boy.
And I'm the person that brings cards.
And
So
so much
today,
more.
whatever. You do what you can do. So today we are going to pull an oracle card from the Urban Crow
Mm.
Oracle deck, which is a lovely deck of cards by MJ Cullinane. She designs the cards and writes the descriptions for them, and she uses independent publishers. So I love her work a lot. And I have been shuffling these cards all morning. So we're not asking a question today. We're not asking for advice. We are just going to pull a card and see what it speaks to us and just talk about that a little bit. So, all right, here I go. I guess I'll show you. I'm actually pulling a card and I'm going to look at it just in case there are questions. Oh, always welcome. This card is insight.
Mm.
Insight. And that is a crow. And that crow has a jar.
Of all the things that's collected, it looks like
I think
a whole
so.
little
It
world.
looks very crowish. Let me take a peek so I can answer any questions. Oh, it's full of a liquid. I think it's got water. You know what? I think it's water and pebbles. And
Hmm.
it looks like there is a gold thing that may be gold or it could be a flower.
I know it looks like a flower from here, but
I
I'm
think
never
it's a
sure if it's me.
flower, which a flower can be gold also. It's a treasure. Maybe it doesn't
Hmm.
matter exactly what it is physically. I think this is a treasure. I think this crow has a jar full of treasures or wishes or dreams, or it's a very dreamy card, isn't it? Insight.
It is all the lights and the clouds and
Yeah. I love the autumn color of the clouds. It makes me feel very present since we're in a glorious autumn in North Carolina right now.
what's beside the jar?
I think it looks to be, I think it's seeds. It
Oh, it
looks like
is
pumpkin seeds, doesn't
seeds.
it? Don't those look like pumpkin seeds?
And then I see
It
now
would
like
it would go with the pumpkin color.
the radiant, is there like it's almost making like there's a radiant light coming from the jar, like there's lines of light coming off of it.
Yeah, it's like it's got waves in it. Oh, this is so dreamy.
This
I
makes me very
love
excited for
this.
what Alice is, what how I'm going to experience this episode and what I'm going to glean or gain from this time spent with Alice.
Yeah, this is a very surreal card to me. I just think it's very dreamy and I don't know, there's lots of light and the clouds and the color. I just think it's about, well, the name is Insight. I think it's about gleaning insight,
Hmm.
however you glean that, wherever you get that from.
I know.
Be the crow.
Alice, do you
Yes.
what do you think? You have to butt in with us.
Yeah,
You
you
really
got a
have
buddy
to.
in there.
All right. Um, it's all about curiosity.
Mm.
Yeah, perhaps he's or she has flown and arrived at this kind of interesting site. I mean, how many people put out a jar like that that a crow could get to? And it's it's you can't get really down inside it that well to find out, to find the texture, the or kind of mix up what's in there. But he can at least study it and be interested by it, and then uh, fly away and with his curiosity intact. I'm really glad you pulled that card.
Mhm.
Yeah, because if we don't have curiosity, then we wouldn't ever be called poets. We wouldn't be called writers. We wouldn't be called readers. Um,
This is
Mm.
true. That is
so
so true.
yeah, so that's what I think is going on. But it's a beautiful painting.
Mhm.
Or what? Didn't you say the artist is as important as the material?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
she's a really good
Yeah.
artist.
Yeah, she is. She does a mixed media and uh graphic design. She uses the computer. She's fabulous. I love her work so much.
Yeah.
Oh, curiosity does
I love
lead to
it. I
insight. This
know.
is okay.
All right, so you
I'm
just
already getting some insight.
read that bio so we can ask questions.
Okay, here we go. Yes, this is give you guys a nice introduction here to Alice. Okay, here we go. Alice Mergler has enjoyed a rewarding teaching career, 24 years of it spent teaching English, history, and drama in Prince William County, Virginia. She's enjoyed a lifetime of wonderful accomplishments in her 85 years, including
Mm.
rearing 6 sons with her beloved husband. Wow, I did one. I'm envious of you. Uh, she now enjoys being retired, advising the Poet Laureate Circle, marketing the Prince William County Arts Council, and teaching 2 classes, Memoir Writing and Poetry, for LLI, which is the Lifelong Learning Institute. Alice also enjoys keeping up with her many grandchildren, getting 10,000 steps in a day, and being a spilled inker, a member of the Spilled Ink Writing Group, which is a poetry open mic organization for which she just published a second poetry book. And I am so excited to get to talk with you today.
Thank you.
Mm. Thank you for being here, Alice. I don't know why I've never done this before, but I
Uh-uh.
wondered, would you read a poem for us first?
Ooh, to
Sure.
get us going.
Yeah,
Sure. No two poems are alike in the making. Each poem is a living piece of your life with its own character and integrity. While you compose, you begin to adapt to its voice and emotions. Values and visions creep into focus like tiny ghost crabs scuttling across the
Mm.
newly washed sand. Your words start to harden into substance, yet you pause often, sometimes through tears or laughter or swathed in memories that can bind you up in a tourniquet for hours at a time. But then a sudden rush of syllabic energy, like happens when the school bus announcements come on and your students hurl towards the door. When you think it is complete, actually, a poem is never complete. Part of you vanishes with it, and the only
Mm.
cure to find more of yourself is to start another poem.
Oh,
Oh, you articulated so many things that I have felt and never even thought about putting into words. Like that when it's done, it's never complete, but when it's done, there is a piece of you that feels like it oof, is
uh,
Thank
oh,
you.
thank you. Now, okay,
oh, thank you.
Alice, ha
Want another?
Well, I got to find out a couple things about you.
Yeah,
So
We got to
now
butt in a little bit.
you you are a poet. Is that right?
I am a poet, but I
And
also, I was just talking to Kathy about it because if I explained how I participate in the arts, the best thing I have found to be capable of is I'm an audience and
mm,
help others um, become artists either gradually or they're already there and I'm out there clapping for them to go further. And sometimes when my girlfriends from high school, who we still have friendships going from the class of 58, um, I was over there the other day showing off the new poetry book for the Spilled Inkers called When You Hand a Poet a Microphone.
mm.
Um, and we talked about how many times that we've supported others in their endeavors to play and play with and enjoy the arts. And we always go back to high school because several of us were on the Penman magazine staff. And the thing I remember most about it, and has been part of my life ever since, is I sold donuts to raise money for the printing. And I can't tell you one article that I wrote, and I was part of a huge house fire, so that burned. But we sold donuts, and that's when I started organizing events. You know, to be an audience and to keep people supported. If you can be a poet, but you can also support poetry, and that's why I just published the second book for my Spilled Inkers, and we'll get to that in a little while. So anyway, that is something I'm glad you asked about because it's it's what spurs me on every day is how can I find somebody who needs some clapping out there or who needs to learn to write or who wants to be published. And I've helped quite a few fledgling poets become published, and that makes them happy. Even though they and I'm including my students. We put out a couple of fun things way out there, and then sometimes they come on your telephone and say you had a student who won a contest, and I said we do. And
Oh,
it's been a really good life to be able to be involved, not just as an artist, but for an artist. So,
I
that is
love that. I know,
that's so
Karen.
important. I'm so glad that you talk about that because it's
Mhm.
so important, and I think people need to know that it's yes, you can be the poet that writes the poems and sends the poems out and gets them published, and please do be that person, but you can also be the person that lifts up other people
yeah.
and brings more of that poetry joy into the world. Thank you for doing that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, my books of poems, and I do them with my poet laureate, my present poet laureate. Did you meet John Dutton when you were there?
I did, and we're gonna have him on Great Goodness. He's our guest
He's just really
soon.
a wonderful man, and he's really involved in how I became part of the judging of the Poets Laureate of Prince William County, and also I was his mentor when he came to teach at the school where I was teaching, and we were instant friends. And he calls me mom, and I call him my seventh son, and
Aw.
it's just been wonderful. And he he entered the first poet laureate contest, and he had this great project, but his poetry, they didn't. The judges didn't think were quite as fine as some of the other poems, but we encouraged those who didn't win that first poet laureate contest for Prince William County. We encouraged them to keep writing poetry and to hold them up and keep supporting them. We formed the Poet Laureate Circle. And, and that is, and Kathy and I have kept it going all this time. And every 2 years, the even years, we find another wonderful poet laureate and have a crowning ceremony. It's really fun. We get a
Ah,
proclamation from Prince William County telling the world that it's Poet Laureate Day, and they read it out loud to people at the supervisors meeting like it's the most important day of the year. And we've kept the Poet Laureate Circle going. And then the odd years, we formed this wonderful idea, was Kathy's idea, and I joined right in to have in the company of laureates,
Mm.
and that's how I have just had the most fun, and we've organized it. And this year, when you walked into George Mason, we almost didn't have it there because the only reason was is the Hilton couldn't handle us for 2 days where we've had it before, and that's important. But she said, there's another auditorium and nice workshop rooms right over there on campus. And I said, there is. And I went over, and it for the 2 days, it wasn't as much as one day at the Hilton. And when you walked in there, the one reason I was so excited is because it was a wonderful venue for
Hmm.
our gathering, and I was real excited to be there with all of you. And and then Kathy said, only coffee. But then I decided that you couldn't go from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon without food. And she says, Alice, you're food oriented. And but yeah, we loved having the refreshments there, and it was such a nice social gathering too. Those
Hmm.
poets, we've had these gatherings so often, and I know that there's many other ways that poets meet together, but in the company of laureates is way special. And one reason I know is we get all these thank you notes,
uh,
um,
Mm.
and how enjoyable it was to enjoy each other's company as well as their poetry.
yeah.
It was the best vibe I have experienced. There was no ego there, and that's our egos. I mean, they just come with us everywhere we go, and they just try and take center stage. And that was not my experience there. I mean, people graciously, they did what you're talking about. They clapped for one another
Yeah.
sincerely with all their hearts. They listened and were there and held space, and it was amazing. I mean, I just got so high just being there. It was so
And the
much fun.
workshops
Hmm.
from the poets, and they were so engaging. They didn't stand there and say, "Oh, this is my poetry" and so forth. That the my good friend Paulette, a poet friend of mine, she walked out of there and she says, "Look what I wrote. We wrote.
Uh,
We didn't
Mhm.
just listen. We wrote." And they were. I thought our workshops were extra great this year.
I think I had Paulette in my workshop with the Altoid cans. And I feel like it was Paulette. I feel like she might
Yeah,
have opened the door with you when I
yeah,
walked in,
yeah.
and she really shared about her mother. She had written this poem about her
Oh, I
mother,
know.
and everyone was crying. She was sharing it,
Yeah.
and it was just, yeah, yeah, I remember that. Oh,
Uh,
but I had a question. Okay. Um, so I I I wanted you to talk a little bit about, I'm not sure of the question, but how it feels different but equally as satisfying or fulfilling, I'm not sure, to write and to be heard as much as it does to listen. And I wondered if you could articulate a little bit of those differences or similarities.
Okay. It's a good question to ask me because sometimes when I get home, I think, gosh, I didn't read a poem today, or I didn't particularly feature myself, but um, I get home and I read through my poems and I think, some of them are pretty good. I could have read those. But
Mhm.
again, I really enjoy featuring others. But let me tell you a few things about participating in a poet's life. I had wonderful parents, and I'm going to give a little anecdote here because it's important. At Christmas, we would gather in the living room, and we had to each watch each other open gifts and so forth. And my mother, every gift that she gave us had a poem on it, addressed especially to us.
Wow.
But
Oh,
the most interesting thing about this is that then the children were sent away, and my sister and I used to sit on the stairs so we could listen. And my parents read poetry to each other as gifts. And some of it was quite, um, I'm going to use the word racy. And they would laugh and carry on, and it was all about the poetry they read to each other with their little girls sitting on the stairs thinking, wow, they're having fun, all with poetry.
oh, that's
So
great.
I grew up with wonderful parents, and not only that, but they were so into the arts. My father had a beautiful voice and was often asked to sing at weddings and so forth. He also was an attorney with a worldwide practice. He was a transportation attorney and eventually helped Eisenhower develop the interstate highway system and so forth. My mother traveled with my father in Europe and all kinds of places. And while he was in his conferences, she would go to the art gallery. She loved art. And when he passed away, which was on my 23rd birthday at age 57, she
Oh my
decided to
goodness.
go back to college. She had a degree in English and was a wonderful writer and so forth. But she went back, got an art history degree, and then decided that other people needed to be interested in art history. And so she started teaching for Arlington little night classes. This was before junior colleges or something. And then she had my brother build a screen in our old recreation room and a detail screen. And she invited people to come to our house and listen to art history lessons. Then she thought that wasn't enough. So I'm going to organize trips to see the real art and the real architecture. And she needed a Sherpa. So she said, Alice, go back, get your art history degree, and you can help me. But even before that, she had me follow her on her trips. We went everywhere, all over Europe, Canada, the United States, and I will tell you this one anecdote. Kathy told me not to dwell on this too much, but we were in the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, and she was up doing a lecture, and people from the next tour group kept kind of creeping over and listening to her and she said when they had to go back to their group and exit, she said, Alice, wait a few minutes so they don't see the wheelchair. She was 88 and lecturing still with art history with her Sherpa daughter right there.
Yeah.
And then we went on the night train to Moscow, and she took the upper bunk.
Mm.
I told this story to my principal when she drew me into the office. I was 72 and teaching, and she said, Alice, how much longer are we going to get to have you or something? And I told her this story about my mom, and she kind of turned a little ashen and thought, how long is this woman going to be here? She didn't really think that, though. We were really good friends.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
She used to send a substitute down to my classroom and say, you're wanted in the office. And the first time the kid said, Mrs. Mergler's in trouble. But she really called me up, and she would close the door and pull the blind down on the door and say, okay, you're the Speaker of the House. Tell me what's going on out there. Tell me who's complaining. Tell me what I need to do better and so forth. And then she'd send me back to my classroom as if, So I've had some wonderful experiences teaching art, and then uh, the very final art history tour we went on was during the Atlanta Olympics. The High Gallery had
Oh.
a ring of 5 countries send art that they had never sent before. And we lectured, and she let me lecture at the High Gallery. And then she died at 92.
Mm.
Still very, very active. And as I told Kathy a few minutes ago, she taught me how to be a widow because Dawn
Mm.
passed away after helping me. We put all those kids through college, one of them through law school, and then the second one I helped get through law school. But Dawn passed away in 2001, and
Mm.
uh, and there I was, um, uh, the same thing that happened to my mom, and I could have curled up in a ball, but I didn't. I was teaching. In fact, we buried him on a Friday, and I was teaching on Monday morning because
Wow.
that is the way that has been the best way to be a widow, in case anybody out there is listening, is to stay really active and
Mhm.
gather gather the arts around you. And I had already organized the Cultural Arts Federation because when I moved to Manassas, we had no arts. There was a racetrack down the street, and on Saturday nights, instead of the National Theater, remember, I grew up in Arlington and
Mhm.
went to the Phillips Gallery, the National Gallery, where my
Right.
mother was a docent. Anyway, you could hear the racetrack on a Saturday night. And I said, Don, we've moved to the wrong place, or we've got to do something about it. Formed the Arts Council, which later became the Arts Council, and we started with one play group, the Prince William Little Theater, the Barbershop Quartet, the Woodbridge Orchestra, which was maybe 15 instruments, and Arts Alive, the name of my little organization.
Ah.
I when uh, Comcast or that type of television came to Manassas, they needed to have a local program featuring the community, or Comcast would not choose Manassas as a location. This was in 1980,
Mm.
and I volunteered to be the community voice, and I gathered artists in. It was once a week, and then they showed it 3 times a week, just like this, but really early on because it was television. And we had the barbershop sing, and then I would interview them, and that's the way we started spreading the arts because
Mm.
people watch television.
Mhm.
Sorry, I've talked too much.
Well, but
No.
I
Oh, no.
no, not too much, but I do have a
All
question.
fascinating.
So, say someone is listening to this, or say someone is looking at their community and thinking, I want to see a more vibrant arts community here. But they're feeling overwhelmed or it's daunting to start. Where does a person start? Like, what's the first step or a
You,
first step?
well, my first step, and it was a my, not our at first. They said, Alice, there's other things to do, and you have all those kids. Well, I rounded up the kids, and we found a little park that we thought would be a nice place to start. And on Sunday afternoons, before that, my kids on the back of the station wagon, we drop leaflets around the local houses and said, "Come and we'll have a little bring a blanket, bring your fried chicken, and we'll listen to an artist, or we'll watch a small band and so forth." And then I researched anybody who I talk to. Do you know any church choir that might have a soloist? Do somebody who plays an instrument, even if it's not what considered a orchestra, the guitar. Someone who, and I knew about the barbershop quartet um, from the very beginning, because one of the members was a member of my church,
Mhm.
and that's another way to reach out into the arts, is that churches are full of artists. They play instruments, they sing, they
Mhm.
often have teachers who are other things other than Sunday school teachers in their regular life. That's one good way. But yeah, and you can't give up. Sometimes people would maybe we would have 10 neighbors who came down to the park, and but eventually they built a little stand that you could like a gazebo stand, and then you could buy a bench, and we organized 5 different benches, and they had we could put our names on them, or we could put in memory of on them, and so then we had a place to perform.
Mhm.
And
Ah,
um just that it was ragged, it was small, but it grew into the Arts Council. And
Mhm.
and the Cultural Federation, everybody kidded me about that name, that it was too a little bit glossy, but yeah, there are people out there waiting to be heard and to be seen and to be loved.
Ah,
yeah.
there are people out there waiting to be heard and loved.
Yeah,
There are,
yeah, because
and we must love them.
if we love it, there are other people who
Yeah.
um and in fact, I'll tell a story, one little story here about when you hand a poet a microphone.
Mhm.
I have a neighbor who takes care of her husband day and night, and has she was a teacher though, and was used to being able to be with a lot of people in the daytime, appreciative students, and so forth. And I said, "Come on up to Spilled Ink." Maybe he would be resting at that time of evening. It's once it's on the fourth Friday every month, Spilled Ink, where we hand our inkers a microphone. And so she said, "Okay, I'll do that." And then she called and she said, "I can't come." And then the next month she says, "I'll try to come." The third month she came and read this beautiful poem. And I said to her, "Thank you so much for believing in yourself. And you are a poet. And when you're there at the house, don't, don't, uh, don't let down on this. You now have been heard through a microphone. You've had your audience. Go home and write other poems." And she has one of the best poems in this poetry book. Um, for our spilled inkers.
S-
There's
s-
others who have said, Alice, I don't want, we do other things. We go out to dinner on Friday nights. My husband probably would say, where are you going? And you say, bring him. And we
Yeah.
had one couple who it was only the wife who was writing poetry, and then her husband came because she insisted he listen to her. Well, you know what? I think I can write a poem. And they both
Ah.
come now. They both come.
Oh, I love that.
And
Speaking,
Mike has his own poetry book published now.
whoa.
Oh.
Speaking of poems, Alice, would you read us another poem?
Sure.
Okay. Speaking of being heard and loved,
Yes.
let us love you.
Walked in the newly scattered leaves today. Broad Run was gurgling on my way, earned 5,009 steps, but not enough. So I walked in my neighborhood, watching the sunset, still in a battle for attention, behind fast moving clouds. Got a few more steps that way, challenging myself forward the desired 10,000. It is now rapidly wandering toward the 0 hour. My joints whisperer is trying hard to calm my bones, and now is when hope walks beside me. But hope is not a strategy, faith is. Most of all, mental fortitude will help me get this done. 10:30, round and round I go through my rooms on a rusted belt of memory. Old
Mm.
photos blink. Looking down at my trusted smartwatch, I take another furtive glimpse. Then I trot. Finally, on this first September day, I once again meet my goal and will await the breath of a shining new morning, helping its possibilities glow within me. And now a peaceful exhale.
Mm.
Ah. Oh, love
Alice,
that.
do you have a book out?
Yeah, I have two poems and
Okay.
how to how and this is kind of sarcastic too because sometimes when we hand them a microphone we can't get them off. there's a
Right.
there's a 6 minute limit, and, and they say, oh, can I just do one more? And of course we let them, and then this coffee shop that we needed a venue, and this new coffee shop opened, and as a member of the Mormon church. We don't drink coffee, but I went to the owner and said, could we please um, have something here? Because people get off the train. We're right by the railroad tracks there. Manassas is a railroad town. It's the reason it's called that is because when the Southern troops got off the train, they walked to the battlefield, and that's why we had the first Battle of Manassas. In the
Mm.
meantime, they slept all over the near the railroad tracks, and one of the places they slept, one of the pieces of ground, was where my home is. And
Mm.
when we built our swimming pool, we came to a belt buckle, and that got me interested. There's a whole nother side of me that is a World War, Civil War, and then World War II scholar. And one of the things I did to get this is something I never would have thought of, but to get uh, um, close to people who came to town and said, where's the battlefield? Because by then I was part of a group that formed Historic Manassas. And so we got a bus, and I got on the bus and gave lectures and took them out to the battlefield. But first, we rode around town and showed them all the locations where the Civil War began, because it really
Oh,
began
wow.
in Manassas.
Yeah.
We were the first battle there when the people from the north came out in carriages with picnics to sit on the hill and watch the first battle. And then when it became a little fierce, they packed up, got in their
Right.
carriages, and rode back to Washington.
Mm.
That's right.
And
Wow.
the early part of right over the river, which is now called Arlington. But um, I would like to read a couple more poems because that they explain my life away. Um,
Okay.
do you mind?
No, I'm
Okay.
a captive audience.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Sometimes you have to be a captive audience. No leaving early. Retirement is a time of great changes, new phases to my journey. There is much more time to give voice to my unspoken dreams. I am tipped over into this new life, just into a new way of seeing, a new way of being, that it seems just a few years ago I might not have had these words. I am experiencing a more deeply lived and examined life, one of soothing joys and, yes, some little strife. It starts most mornings with my hands cupped around a small, neat rectangle where can be found the whole world spinning, just waiting for me to press the right buttons to see what I need. First to the calendar, I usually hurriedly go, hoping against hope this day will be slow because I've spent a week meeting many behests, fulfilling all plans, and doing my best to keep the promises I dutifully made, running on errands and always kind of afraid that I should have said no. But that's not me. So next I get dressed and pretend I am free to maybe sit down. No, just got up. Then the telephone rings, reminding me of all the stuff I said I would bring to the class I am teaching this retirement day. Maybe tomorrow I will to my friends say, this morning I'm writing a poem. Sorry, can't be there. I'm staying home. I
I love
teach
that.
two different classes for um, the long for the retirement um, um, group that I mentioned in my
Lifelong
uh,
learning.
lifelong learning.
Yeah.
And um, I joined the class the minute I retired, and that was in 2014. And this writing memoir class has been so wonderful. It's a quite a large group. We have between 20 and 25, mostly women, but some men. And we read a text that inspires us to learn to write instead of just casually writing. We're also learning to write more. Kathy, where did we put that text? I can't remember. Anyway, this year it's Zinzer, and here we go. Can people see when I hold it up?
A
Hold it
little
up a
bit
little bit
higher.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
Okay.
yes.
Anyway, we go to a text and learn to write better, but really, the memoirs and the wonderful past these people have come through. Um, I just look so forward to it. But we had a wonderful teacher, and she goes to Maine in the summer to a summer place way up in Maine, way above Portland. And 2 years ago, her husband fell in the shower up in this way remote house and broke his back. She
Oh,
wrapped him in a blanket, put him in the back, carried him to the back of the car, and drove him to Boston to the hospital to be taken care of, and wrote to us and said she could no longer teach. We loved Mary Winsky. She was so wonderful. And we said, I'll tell you what, Mary, we're not gonna let your wonderful memoir class go. She started it in 2003. She was one of the first teachers for lifelong learning. So we asked if we could teach ourselves and members of the class, long ago members of the class, and then new ones. We divided up, and we've been teaching the class ever since.
ah,
I
It's
love that.
8 weeks in the fall and 8 weeks in the spring, and you pay one price, and then you can go to any of the classes. And they're taught by retirees who have had these amazing lives and want to keep on learning from each other. But if you
oh,
go, there's great lectures about traveling, and there's a cooking club, there's a book club, there's all kinds of ways for these retirees to get together, because otherwise you might have a few neighbors, a few friends at your
Mhm.
church, but you've left where you taught or where you
Mhm.
worked,
Mhm.
and you can be alone.
Yeah.
There's an aloneness. So this
Mm.
is a way to get together and kind of show off to each other that we were once, important, and we have a lot to still learn and to share. So
I think that's
wanted to
a
be sure to
Uh,
talk about, because it can be started in any community.
mhm.
yeah.
If you have retirees, and a lot of people do have, and they don't want to go off and play canasta at a retirement home.
No.
They
Right.
want to be active in their community.
I
Yeah.
think that's a great place for us to. We're running out of time,
I'm
but
so sorry.
I think that's a great. But that's a. I really want to draw attention to what you just said because I think it is really the core of honestly how you've lived your life. That that and I would think you've lived your life like this, but I'm guessing that you believe this to be true of all people that we have something to give. We have something to share. We have a love to give. We have the gift of listening. We have the gift of participating as an audience or, or offering love or
Yeah.
there's so many different ways that you have um, been there, been fully present, been
Mhm.
and to me, it's not just as a retiree, but I hear you talking about how you've done that your whole life. And
Yeah.
that to me is like that's what I felt from you when I walked in that room. Like you are like you said to me, you are welcome here. And
Mhm.
I could not have believed you more. I
I
mean,
love my laureates.
what
I
a
do.
gift. Well, I'm not a laureate, but
No, but that we just call it that.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I felt that, and we can, and that makes me like, as we come to the end, we always do a prompt, and we always do one that's inspired by the guest we had, and and sometimes it's a life prompt, how to live creatively, and sometimes it's a writing one. But I just feel like you live creatively because to create, like that's what you have done. Like you've created lives and your sons, you've created spaces for others to be heard. You oh, oh, you are so vital. And I just think that's got to be the prompt, right, Karen? Like there I mean, that's got to be the
Yeah,
prompt. Like
for
how
sure.
when like today, tomorrow, every day, like for
reach
for
out, reach out.
yes, love. Like there are
Yeah.
people there to be loved. There are things that are being created to love. And if we can open our hearts and give that welcome and give that embrace, what a special world we will live in. And no matter where you are, no matter who your neighbors are, no matter how lonely or how remote, reach out and embrace and and I just think that's incredible.
I couldn't have done all that I do in these later years, um, without wonderful people who help me and boost me up. And look what Kathy did for me today. And look what she does for that um, when she was Northern Virginia representative
Yes.
of the Poetry Society of Virginia. Look at what she did day and night, night
Yep.
and day, while taking
Absolutely.
care of her wonderful mother. And I do want to mention really quickly one more person that I reached out to, and she reached up to me, and that was Kathy's daughter, a
Mhm.
wonderful
Mm.
poet and a poet laureate, our first poet laureate, along with another we couldn't decide. I didn't know it was my student though, because I taught her in eighth grade, and there I was in 2014 judging the first laureate contest, and we couldn't decide, and we couldn't decide. And it was a Friday, and I was due at one of my students, past students' wedding at the military academy in New York.
Mm.
And I had to get in my car and go straight from the judging. So I said, we've got to decide. And we decided on two instead of one. And one was Kathy's wonderful poet
Oh,
daughter. And it was so amazing because we don't know we don't have gender, we don't know anything about the poet. We choose the project of spreading poetry and the love of it in the community and the poems. And
Mm.
she, of course, had done both. And when I found out it was my student, I just said, "Way to go!" And she said over and over to me, "Thank you, Mrs. Mergler. Thank you." The whole Kathy and her kids. Neil, her son was a entry too, and I didn't know that anything about it. But he I could call him another son. I've followed his career, and I just love these people. And I I just am so glad that I could be part of this. I wouldn't have known about you. I wouldn't have known about this great idea. This podcast, look how many you're reaching out to. Look how many you're talking about goodness. And I would like to tell you that the main reason I started writing poetry is because my mother and father encouraged me to, but also because a lot of their poetry, and especially a lot of mine, is religious. Because I'm I've taught many a class at we have a women's organization in the Mormon church, and it gives you a chance to teach. I've also taught in the children's organization, which is called Primary, and I taught through poetry, um, and the most recent thing I've done, and this is how I want to finish because it's another great idea. Paulette invited me to write a poem every day for a month before Praise in the Park. And every year they have a park that that you go and have all kinds of religious activities for all ages. And she wanted it to be a nice day, and she wanted people to know about it. So she published a poem every day, and many of them were mine because I took her
oh,
seriously. I said that means 30 prayers, 30 prayers as poems. And but we pulled it off. She did too. And it's another way to give praise is through poetry.
Mm.
mm.
That is a perfect ending. Thank you so much for being our guest
Oh,
here
thank you.
today. We really enjoyed you.
No,
And so
I enjoyed it so much. Thank you for the opportunity. It was
thank
wonderful.
you. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share Alice. Share
I
goodness. Share
I
love.
um I thank you again.